There's this Studio Ghibli film that I watched when I was a child, when I was younger, and it's one of the lesser known Studio Ghibli films. I think everybody probably knows like Princess Mononoke and Spirited Away and Howl's Moving Castle, but this particular film is quite, I guess, older. It's nondescript as well, and it really touched me when I was younger. I've recently watched it back as an adult, and it's kind of hit me deeply more than I expected. The film is called Only Yesterday, and it follows a young 27-year-old woman called Teiko. She lives in Tokyo, works in Tokyo, and she decides to take a 10-day vacation to go to the countryside to visit her sister's relatives and just spend a little bit of time there. And while she's on that journey and while she's there, she meets her 10-year-old self, which comes back to her as these childhood memories that she has. And I guess in a way it's flashbacks of her life before, or who she was before life kind of got in the way and before she just has this, I guess before adult life hits her. And over the last few months, I've been thinking a lot about this movie, and I've been thinking about why it's come to me, why I felt the need to watch it. And I think because if I really deep it, I feel like maybe in some ways my life kind of mirrors a little bit of Teiko's kind of journey with herself. I guess I'd chosen a path and a life that I thought would be intellectually fulfilling for me. It would give me the stability I needed financially, emotionally as well. Everything that just kind of made sense to me at the time. But along the way, somewhere, somehow, I think I started to lose a little bit of my spark or just the creativity that I've really been wanting and had wanted to kind of cultivate in my life. I know I'm not alone in this. I'm sure this is something that a lot of people have gone through. Maybe if you're watching, you've gone through as well. So thinking about this movie and watching it again, I've kind of been able to see that there's a lot of lessons and things around just life and work that is really insightful and useful to me, and I think it would be insightful and useful to a lot of people, so I want to share it today. So watching the film, there's a line that Teiko says as she's reminiscing on her 10-year-old actions. She says, "In work and play, we were always more lively than the boys. We thought we had already flown away from home. But now I look back and think maybe we were just too busy flapping our wings and forgot who we were." And I think this line is really quite poignant because I recognize it myself in my own life. I work in a pretty demanding career, and it is a career that I generally do care about. But after long days, I would look for a way to quickly replenish all of the energy that I've lost or I've been missing throughout the day. And I'd find that I would just pick up my phone and consume like all sorts of media, from really funny skits to like really harrowing news. And some of it is not on purpose, it's just what's on my feed. I think sometimes Instagram and TikTok is not particularly helpful, but that's what I gravitate to. And if I don't gravitate to that, then I'm eating fast food or like having sweets because it's the really quick dopamine hit that I know I can get. I think in my head, by me consuming all of those stuff, it was probably my way of not wanting to be left alone in the silence of the day, or not wanting to be bored, or not wanting to be left with my own thoughts. These maybe hard truths that I would have to face or confront. It was always better to be engaged in something. Yeah, I guess I didn't realize that I was living my life in autopilot, just not really thinking about things, just going about my day as normal, this repetitive routine of working, consuming, not really thinking, and not really observing or being mindful of what's happening around me. And I think Teiko's life like really captures that particularly well in the movie. I wouldn't say that she's unhappy in her life or anything like that. She doesn't really give the impression of that, but she is going through the motions. She's kind of just drifting through life, and she's really busy working in the city. She's kind of forgotten who she really is and what she really likes and enjoys. So there's this innate disconnect that she feels, but she can't really put a name to it. Those are things that we all feel, and we've all kind of been through, or we can all empathize with in some way. We tend to build lives that on the surface maybe feel quite fulfilling and seem fine, but deep inside maybe it's a little bit hollow, or we're lacking something, and it just takes a little bit of time to really confront what it is that we're missing so we can make a change. There is another great part in the film that I absolutely love, and I think anybody who's watched the film probably feels the same way that I do. It's a wonderful scene where Takeo decides to work in the safflower fields with the other workers. The scene is honestly beautiful. It's just, you can see her working in the fields, you can see the safflowers, and you can see like the sun starting to peek behind the trees. It is honestly just really, really beautiful. The thing is, that scene, there is nothing particularly happening. I think there's really small dialogue, if not any kind of dialogue, but it's the most profound part of the film for me. And it's because Takeo and the workers, as the sun is peeking behind the trees, she's just taking in that moment and being really mindful of what she's doing. They stop working and they just appreciate where they are and who they are in that moment. And you can feel for her that a change has occurred. And for us watching as well, there's a change that has occurred for us too. I think about this scene a lot, and I even have it framed upstairs in my bedroom because I just want to remind myself of that particular moment. And it's because Takeo deciding to take that break in the countryside is her allowing herself to take things slow and to spend time doing things slowly and intentionally, like her taking the long train ride to the countryside, her doing very slow, hard work, these really funny and reminiscent conversations that she has with people, or the car journeys that she takes, allow her enough time to really think and ponder and dwell on who she is and what kind of life that she wants to have. There is a great writer and YouTuber called Danko, and he shares something kind of really similar and something that's quite insightful. He says, "You're always running towards the next source of pleasure, but the satisfaction never lasts. Each experience becomes your new normal, requiring more intense stimulation to achieve the same emotional high. But when you deprive yourself of pleasure, the opposite happens. Simple pleasures become enjoyable again. You notice the detail in the sky when you're on a walk outside. You notice the hint of rosemary in the well-cooked meal. Life becomes electric, as it should be." And therefore, he also suggests a pretty helpful remedy. He says, slow down, allow yourself to be bored, pursue a life you design, not one that was assigned to you. And I think that's essentially what Takeo does in the film. I myself have been trying to do this in very small ways, like taking a walk outside without listening to a podcast or music, or trying to bake a cake instead of doom scrolling on my phone, or reading instead of doing YouTube. All of these things, even though albeit it is quite slow and very gradual, are slowly starting to change how I feel about my day to day. And I'm realizing and seeing that a little bit of my creativity and spark is coming back. I'm starting to get small pockets of enjoyment during the day, and that really does matter a lot. So ultimately, I love Only Yesterday, and I love it more because Takeo ends up being really honest about herself, and she makes a choice or ends up deciding to do something that is best for her. She allows herself time to reminisce on her childhood, with curiosity and transparency, to question these hard truths that she was noticing in her childhood and in her life as an adult now. She gives herself space to move away from busyness, to move away from monotony and living life on autopilot, because she does that, it means that she can be true to herself. She realizes that there are so many things about her as a child that she kind of wants to get back. She notices what she loved about herself when she was a child, from eating a pineapple despite her parents' warnings, or really encompassing and really getting into an acting role that her teacher has reservations about, and a whole bunch of other stuff. She does all of these things, and through those realizations, she ends up finding herself again. At the end of the film, I guess if you haven't watched it, this is a bit of a spoiler, so please just dip out. But at the end of the film, she ends up staying in the countryside, and she starts to think about a life with another man who also lives life on his own terms and really fully understands her and the sentiments that she has. I think this film blogger that I read puts the film and Takeo really, really well. The film isn't so much a love story, but rather about this young woman finding herself. She's getting back to who she is and what she really wants. And that it's very easy to lose sight of what truly makes you happy as you try to fit into the mold that society and culture lays out for you. I think that's a really lovely way of putting it. And I think that's something we should try to remember. We don't need to make a big dramatic change. We don't need to be like Takeo and move from the city to the countryside. I don't expect us to do that whatsoever. But in her spirit, or in her own kind of steps, we can make these really small intentional changes to be a little bit more honest and truthful with what we want to do in our lives, and to make that change that will make us feel a little bit better. So for me, that's going out for walks more, like being in nature, reading books, or trying to bake, or even doing this, like doing YouTube and just being a little bit more creative in that. All of those things are very small and just really honest actions without judgment at all, without judgment from ourselves, from others, or from society's expectations. We should just try to live as fully as possible. And so I guess in a way, as nervous as I am, I definitely don't have my life figured out at all, but every single step that I take, everything that I do is one step closer to being who I really want to be in my life, and hopefully have no regrets. And I am excited to see what life looks like at the end of the day. So if you have made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. And I hope you have actually found some inspiration in different ways that you can live your life, or just make things a little bit more happier and feel a little bit more like you are not alone. I'm doing this too. This is a journey. If you'd like to see more, or you'd like to stick around, please do subscribe or give me a like. I would love to know what you're doing. Let me know if you've watched the film in the comments below. Let me know what your thoughts are. And yeah, just thank you for watching, and I will see you later and speak to you later. Bye.